Welcome again. My name is Randall Blackwood. I am the park naturalist here at Cathedral Caverns State Park. Today we want to talk a little bit about something Mother Nature did to us just earlier this week. We had a horrendous amount of rain to come in, and it literally flooded major segments of the cave. We actually had a lot of it that came in and closed off the pathways there for a while. This is what we refer to area as the original pathway that led into the opening of the rest of the cave. Back for 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, the Indians and everybody else could come to this part of the cave. But as you can see down here, Mystery River is blocking any further passage to it. Believe it or not, that water is about 20 feet deep right now. And that was the connecting passage that led to the rest of the cave. Now for that 6,000 to 8,000 years that the Indians were here, this is about what you would see. The Indians never knew that there was more cave beyond this point. Then in 1952, a guy by the name of Jay Gurley, him and his buddies heard about the cave. They came in here and that passage was open. That is, something had happened to allow the water to drain on out and leave open air passage that led to the rest of the cave. And when they came in here, they went through that passage and went on and discovered the rest of what we now consider Cathedral Caverns. Now, today we've had some recent rains and you see the water's back up again, and that passage is down below, has been again flooded and you can't go into it. It's about 800 feet before you'd have to be able to take your next breath, so that's pretty far away. Now, Jay, realizing that, dug open another passage on this side of the cave that opened it up, that's always open and dry, so that he could get into the rest of the cave and you wouldn't have to close the cave to whenever visitors came in here. Now, I want to go back a little bit and talk about, from my last video, I talked about how all this is limestone rock and how water dissolves the limestone. Now, as rainwater falls through the sky, it becomes a very, very weak acid called carbonic or carbolic acid. It picks up some extra carbon out of the air and it makes it a very, very weak acid that dissolves limestone. So as it filters through the limestone, it dissolves a little bit of it because it being a very, very weak acid, and eventually it starts forming these big passages like we have here. In this case, Mystery River, as we call it, is still flowing today, still making the cave bigger, and the cave is still growing, so the cave is still changing. It's not gone as far as it can, it's still growing even today. And particularly when we have major flood events like we had earlier this week, you end up having a lot of changes and a lot of things that we see that have changed from one week to the next that shows the cave is still growing, still getting bigger over time. Now, the next segment we want to go through, we'll go through the man-made tunnel so that we don't have to swim through Mystery River to get to the rest of the cave. And then we're going to show you some footage of the water, that how bad it had flooded recently past week. That little tunnel that Jay Gurley and his buddies dug through the cave really makes a big difference getting into the other parts of the cave that the Indians didn't know existed. The river passage is the only natural passage that would have allowed you into this part of the cave. Consequently, the Indians never knew that this part of the cave, and what you'll see in other videos as well, is that part of the cave did not exist to the Indians. They never knew that this part ever existed at all. And so when Jay Gurley and his friends came through here the first time, they were some of the first humans to ever see the rest of Cathedral Caverns. Now, had he not put that tunnel in, of course, we would not be able to show you things like Goliath here behind us and the other formations and other things that's in this cave. Now, I want to make one other point, is that that tunnel is the only man-made part in the whole cave. And all the entrance, the size of the rooms and stuff, this cave was never mined. All that is naturally done with the exception of that tunnel that we just drove through. So now we're back into the natural part of the cave, what was done by Mother Nature. Now again, you can hear in my background a little bit, you can hear the Mystery River still flowing off to our right down into that tunnel down below us and all. And now we're also getting to the bigger parts of the cave. Now behind me here is a formation we call Goliath. Now Goliath is a column. A column is a formation that touches both the ceiling and the floor. So they may start out as a stalactite that comes from the ceiling, or a stalagmite that starts from the floor, and eventually, and as they grow together, and once they make contact, then they become a column. So there's a lot of varieties of other kinds of formations that we'll see here inside the cave. Now here's a couple of the formations that are quite common in the back part of this cave. But this is a stalagmite. Now a stalagmite again grows from the bottom and goes upward. In this case though, we also have one above it. This is a stalactite. Now eventually what will happen is these two, one from the bottom growing up and one on the top coming down, once they meet, then they become here what is called a column. Again, because it touches both the ceiling and the floor. Now, and this other thing I want to bring out is that formations are three-dimensional. That is, they have both left, right, up and down, and a forward and a back. And with Goliath, let's go look at what the backside looks like. As you can see, the back side of Goliath is just as impressive as the front side of it is. Like most formations, you want to see both the front and the back all the way around formation because it's just as impressive just from one view as well as the other. It's kind of like whenever you go walking through the woods, every once in a while you want to turn around and look behind you just so that you know what it'll look like on your way back out. Same thing in the cave, is not only do you want to look for their impressive view from that point of view, but you also want to know what it looks like and recognize it on the way back out. Now again, Goliath here is over 40 feet tall and over 200 feet in circumference. And it's still growing today. I mentioned earlier about how the rainwater becomes a very, very weak acid as it falls through the sky, and as it goes through the limestone, it dissolves a little bit of the limestone. When that same rainwater hits open air passage like this, the water will evaporate and leave that little bit of dissolved limestone behind, and that's what makes up these formations. Now, it's kind of the same thing whenever you spill Kool-Aid on a countertop and you come back later and it's dried out, but it still leaves a little bit of a residue behind, a little sticky or something. Same exact situation, just imagine thousands upon thousands of years for it to build up over time. Now, some other things important in this particular room in the cave is that just last week, the camera would have been underwater when we had all that rain come through. Here at the park, we had over 5 inches of rain, and the pathway at this point actually went underwater as Mystery River came up and flooded this part of the cave. Now we're going to go and talk to Tom Story, who's going to talk more about the bridge that goes over Mystery River and the flooding that happened here in the cave.
Hello. All right, where you just seen Mr. Randall standing at was what was known as the original Gurley Path. Where he was standing at this past Monday, he would have been underwater about 20 feet. Now, what I'm standing on is the bridge that was built by the State Department, the DOT, and it's inspected every year. It is very safe. It's wide enough, strong enough to hold an 18-wheeler in here. Now, this past Monday, where he was at, it would have been 20 feet underwater. The bridge here was actually about 6 to 8 inches underwater right here. 2015, we had a record rain that day. We had about 11 inches of rain in 24 hours. And the water itself was over the handrails right here. So it was really deep. It took us about a week once the water went down to clean up in here. Fortunately, with this water that we had this past week, all we have to do is just hose it down. There's not very much mud in here. I think we'd be good to go on that.
I want to thank y'all for watching our video from this week and also for the one from last week. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me here at the park at randall.blackwood@dcnr.alabama.gov. I also want to reiterate that please stay healthy, wash your hands, stay 6 feet away from other people and stuff as you go out. And we're hoping soon to be able to reopen this magnificent cave to tours in the very near future. So keep looking at our website and we'll keep you posted. Thank you for watching.